Okay, van update. You are precariously perched on my pouch. So, if you're rocking back and forth, I apologize. So, yesterday we went to Nagano and we saw the snow monkeys. Insert cozy monkey footage here. It was a great time. So the snow monkey park is kind of on a mountain, and so we had to hike on a very icy, snowy trail to get to where the monkeys are. And the hike up the mountain was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It honestly looked like some shit out of Skyrim, with like the greenery of the moss on the stones and some of the evergreen trees, being covered in melting snow. It was so pretty. However, it was 3 hours there and then 3 hours back. We took a bus there and back. It was part of like an organized trip or whatnot. And I finished reading The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and I'm giving it 3 stars. I could see the vision and I appreciate the vision, but I feel like the execution wasn't there. I think this is another great example of books that have been published in the past few years where it's like, girl, this needed to marinate a little bit more. And I use girl as a collective. I think the author and the editors needed to sit with this for longer and give it more time, because the story itself and what it was trying to do wasn't a bad idea. I think I really, really liked the little reveals we got throughout the story. I liked how the characters were, I like how they were kind of, I don't really know how to explain. They just felt like hyper realistic cardboard cutouts. Like, I can see what the author was trying to do with the characterizations, because they did have unique personalities in ways of engaging with the main character, but I don't think we got enough time with each of the characters to feel invested in them. I'm not a character driven reader to begin with, so it didn't bother me that much. But when so much of your plot revolves around feeling invested in the characters, then it kind of becomes an issue, if that makes sense. Because there's these, okay, so I don't know if I've already said what this story is about, but she ends up kind of sacrificing herself in a very Katniss kind of way to become the bride of the sea god. And when she first awakens in this like city world underwater place, she makes it to the sea god's palace, and she finds out that the sea god is a child. But she is also introduced to these 3 men, and one of them ends up being the love interest. The other 2 just kind of end up being the homies. And I don't know, I think we were supposed to really feel this like found family kind of feeling, but I didn't get that. And also, I'm not really understanding how Shin, who is the love interest and our main character, like what, how, no, like there wasn't anything there for me to feel like they had any kind of feelings for one another, because Shin was just doing what he felt was the right thing to do. He wasn't necessarily going out of his way to do things that he felt she was specifically deserving of. I don't know. I didn't really buy into the romance. The plot was okay. I liked the setting. I liked the whimsy of it all. It was very, very average. It needed more time. It needed more love. It needed more detail. Okay. Then, on the ride back, I started reading Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Okay. Yeah, so if you've watched my other videos, you know that I've been on my my translated Japanese fiction shit, right? That's what I've been on lately. I think I should have started with this one, because this is by far, I'm only on page like 49, I think. Yeah, I'm on page 49. This is by far already my least favorite one. And the reason, here's the thing, it's interesting because I avoided reading this. I avoided buying it, and I avoided reading it, because I thought since it was so hyped up that it was, I guess, like one of the better ones. And so I was like, okay, I'll get all these other ones out the way, and then I will save Before the Coffee Gets Cold for after I've already read the other ones I want to read. And like, the way that we were just thrown into like this huge circle of people, like our main character is the girl who, you know, is getting broken up with. Then there's a waitress, or excuse me, a server. And then there's the I don't want to say bartender, but I guess like I don't know, like the barista girl. And she is the cousin of the owner, I think, something like that. But she calls the owner brother, and he calls her sister, because I don't know, like, and then his wife, I guess, is, I don't know, his wife comes, I don't know who this lady is, I don't know what the fuck's going on. We're just thrown into these random fucking characters. I don't know who the fuck is who. I don't be knowing who is saying anything. The only person's name I'm keeping up with is our main character, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. Can we just have a real minute? Can we just have a real minute together? I am editing my first ever reading vlog. I'm calling it my February reading vlog, but it was really just like the last couple of months in February. And so when I would turn on the camera, it genuinely felt like I was only talking or filming things for maybe like 2 to 5 minutes. I have 2 hours and 45 minutes of footage. What is the reason? Oh my god, I wanted to edit this today and have it out tonight so that it's everybody else's on their side of the world Sunday morning. But like, what? This has to be under an hour. I cannot have every single video on my channel be a feature-length film. What am I talking about? I only read 3 books in this vlog. There's not that much to talk about. Oh my god. Okay, I just had to come on here. I'm just trying to be vulnerable that I have a talking problem. Okay, goodbye. Okay, please forgive me. I'm gonna keep it a buck. So please forgive me for this segment of the video. My brain is soup right now. So at work, excuse me, we are participating in a week-long event, and we are working 12-hour shifts. And so between just the long hours and all of the chaos and physical labor I'm having to endure, literally yesterday I was standing outside in the snow for 2 hours and then had to transport people and things, once again in the snow, not in a vehicle, on foot, in the snow at night for 2 hours. Like, I'm exhausted, I'm sore, and on top of that, I'm on my period. So it is currently Wednesday, March 5th. I just have to power through 2 more days and we're done. But I'm sorry, I've been all over the place. So Monday, I finished Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. So I think I understand that this book is a gateway into a lot of people reading Japanese translated fiction. And if this was your starting place, please don't judge other Japanese books by this, because this is by far my least favorite that I've read so far, as far as like, short Japanese fiction. If this is what people are gauging Japanese fiction on, then I 100% see why I've read so many comments and reviews about Japanese fiction, about how the writing is so stilted and you don't really get to sit in the moment. I agree. I think if you saw anything that you liked in Before the Coffee Gets Cold, the ones I've read so far do all of these things better. So I think for me, okay, I'm not sure if it was the translation or the source material, right? If it was the original text. But it just read like, she did this, he did that. She wanted to do this, but that's not the smart thing to do. So she did that. I didn't feel like, it felt like the story was being written on those little teeny tiny sticky notes. And so they didn't want a sentence to be longer than the fucking sticky note, because I was never able to like be in the story. The choppiness of the sentences just kept taking me out of the story. So even though there were moments that I feel like were supposed to be pulling on my heartstrings, I just didn't care. It was told in such a like matter-of-fact way. And so, yeah, I'm giving this 3 out of 5 stars because I did appreciate the plotting. of this, right? And I guess that's also what was such a bummer. The story was there, but the delivery let me down. Poor execution. Words. Moving on. Okay, at some point, I was on somebody's sprints, like I was participating, like, you know, talking in the chat on, I don't remember. I participate in so many different booktubers sprints, you know, gotta support the homies. But I just randomly, on a whim, I was seeing other people and what they were reading, and I was like, you know what? I want to reread a book too. And so instead of reading Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson, I think that's the writer, I have a gorgeous, oh my god, it's one of the most beautiful books I own. I have the hardcover, and I got it from Books a Million years ago. And it was on sale for $7. I still have the little like tag on the sticker on the back from when it was in the on sale section. It's gorgeous. Even if I don't like this book, I'm keeping it. It even has like the little ribbon bookmark. Oh my god, obsessed. Anyways, I got maybe like 10 or 12 pages into that. And whenever I was on sprints with whatever human, I was like, you know what? I think I want to also do a reread, because all the girlies in the chat were talking about how they were rereading something. And so I have started rereading By Force Alone by Levi Tadar. I'm not sure if that's how you say their name. I read this either in 2024 or in 2023. I can't quite remember, but this was a cover buy. I saw this in the bookstore downtown, and I had never heard of this book or the author. I mean, get into the cover, bruh. And then I love how it looks like torn on the back. I love it. I'm obsessed. So I once again read this either a year or two ago, and I flew through it because it's such a fun, vulgar ride. Long story short, this is a King Arthur This is a King Arthur retelling, and I really like reading about King Arthur. I don't like watching TV shows or movies about it, but reading about it, I'm into. And we're actually going to talk about that in just a moment. But this is the most vulgar retelling of the Knights of the Round Table and Merlin and all of that shit that you will ever come across. In fact, on this read, the yellow tabby tabs are going to represent the vulgarities in here. I don't think I've ever read... I don't think I've ever been so disgusted to read about genitalia in my life. But it fits the story. And you know what's funny? There's a lot of F-bombs in this book. And it made me think of my experience with Quicksilver, how one of my biggest criticisms of it was there were just so many F-bombs. But this is a perfect way, I think this is a perfect example of how the writer was purposefully using those F-bombs as levity, right? Like, it wasn't taking itself too serious. The characters weren't saying fuck to try to seem cool and like a badass. It was to add levity and personality to the characters, right? And it's sprinkled throughout. It's like in the serious scenes, they're not, you know, being, I don't know. My brain is too ridiculous. My brain is stretched too thin to go into further criticisms about fucking Quicksilver in this moment. But I'm loving this so far, and I'm actually absorbing a lot more of the story than I did the first time. I must have just, like, I don't know, went like supersonic speed through this, because I'm picking up on plot points that I don't even remember. And I didn't read this that long ago to where I would forget this much of the story. So I'm actually really happy that I'm rereading this. I'm really hoping, crossing my fingers, that tomorrow is just as chill as it was today, and maybe I'll just finish the rest of it tomorrow. Now, speaking of King Arthur, let's talk about something else real quick. So basically, I grew up really loving reading and consuming content about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. I don't know if it's because of my mom. She's definitely the reason that I am an avid reader, but I don't really remember how I got into Arthurian literature. But anyways, a long while ago, this was about 10 years ago, I was in my local Second and Charles, and I'm not sure if they are everywhere in the States, but essentially it's like the Best Buy of books. They sell mostly used books, but they also have new books, and they sell like random other things like instruments and albums and DVDs and games and game consoles and stuff. But anyways, it's a new and used bookstore primarily, and I was frolicking through the aisles as the young naive lass that I was, and I came across a book that I recognized both the spine, like the design, the title. When I pulled it out, I recognized the cover and the author. I read the synopsis on the back, and I was like, Arthurian retelling, this sounds familiar. And in my head, I was thinking the only way I would have recognized both the cover and the title, as well as the synopsis and the writer, is if I saw it somewhere online and I really wanted to buy it. So I bought it. I bought it used. For most of my adult life, I bought all of my books used. And I read it. And what do the girlies say? It changed my brain chemistry. It still to this day, I will admit, is one of the best written books I've ever read in my life. I just fell into the whimsy of the story and the characters. It was just such a larger perspective of the female characters in King Arthur's story or whatnot, especially the women who have the women of the lake, right? However, it's a very, very long book. And towards the end of the book, I started to think, why don't I hear people talking about this book? People, for something like this, should be standing on the rooftops screaming its praises. I started to get suspicious, but I waited. And I'm glad that I'm not glad about any of this. But when I was done with the book, I then went on the Googles. I think you probably already know what book I'm talking about. But I was confused because when I Googled it, all of the first 5 or 6 links that showed up were purple. And you know what that means. That means you have visited it before. I said, oh no. Oh no. And then it all came back to me. And it's all coming back to me. I just want you to see, even though I bought this used, it was in new condition. Do you see how beat up and torn up this book is? I have since read it multiple times. I don't want to say the name of this out loud because I don't want my video to be caught up in some algorithm, and I don't want the internet to magically start, suggesting this book to people. But long story short, this person did horrible things, allegedly, in tandem with their husband, allegedly, from what I remember, to their children. This person is now dead, from what I remember. So I actually don't know how it works. If you buy their books brand new, does their money go to their estate, or does it go to their children? Because if it goes to their children, then by all means, buy this book brand new because it's amazing. But if it goes to I don't know, her husband, or I don't know, if it goes anywhere else other than to charity or her kids, please just don't read it at all. or maybe like just borrow it from La Biblioteca if you're that curious or something. But yeah, the back literally says King Arthur lives on. So I'm very happy that this current reread of By Force Alone is going so well, because at this rate it might take the place of that book in my head as the best, you know, Arthurian story. Is that how you say that word? Arthurian story that I have read so far. Okay, y'all gonna take this bathroom footage whenever I give it to you. So I just finished By Force Alone by Levi Tadar, and I'm gonna make this really quick because I just placed our Domino's order, but 6 out of 5 stars. 6 out of 5 stars. Don't understand what I was doing when I read this like a couple of years ago, because I remember just being like into it. I gave it 4 stars, so not even 5 stars. I gave it 4 stars, but I'm starting to feel like I must have just skimmed a big part. I don't know what. Look, I don't know. Girl, I don't know. But when I tell you every single page of this book is 6 out of 5 stars, I'm not going to go too deep into this because I think I want to make a separate video. Because this book has not found its audience, and I'm confused why it hasn't. This is so geniusly written from a just like, you know, literally sentence structure perspective, but also from the way that the characterizations are done, because you aren't supposed to take any of this seriously, right? But then these characters end up in these grave situations, and in these dire moments you find yourself like really hoping that these terrible people don't die, but every single person in this entire story is terrible. They're all bad people. And I loved it so much the second read through. I'm actually thinking this might be a book where maybe once a year I read this, because I feel like there's also things that on a third and a fourth and a fifth read through I'll pick up on. But I really want to be, this is my book that I am now going to try to champion to get other people to read. And this is part of technically a series. I see that he has another book called The Hood, which I'm pretty sure follows Robin Hood. And I see that this book only has like, I think 1,100 reviews on Goodreads. And then The Hood, I think literally only has like a few hundred. So like, what is happening? What is happening? Why are people not reading this and talking about it? Is there something that I'm missing? I'm just so thankful that I picked it up from the bookstore on a whim because of the awesome cover out in the wilds of Japan. And I think this is where I'm going to end this vlog. I think this is where we're coming to the end. Thank you so much for joining me reading whatever books it is that I read in this vlog, because in this moment I don't even remember the book I read before this one. What did I read? Hey yo, what did I read? I don't remember. Okay, anyways, thank you so much for your support. Like, comment, subscribe, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. I have something super fun coming up for my next video. Bye. Bye.